April 9th meeting of the Planning Commission of the Ascension Parish is will please now come to order. Will the secretary show that all members are present? Will you please all join me in saying pledge allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would just like to note that we're going to do the planning meeting, then the zoning meeting, and then the planning and zoning joint meeting. Has everyone read the minutes? And do I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the past meeting?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we have one, item B under the consent agenda has been pulled, but could I have the staff mention item A on the consent agenda, affidavit of mortgage declaration, Jerome Babin property?
The lender that the applicant was trying to subdivide their property, and we gave them till today to state whether they do or do not object. And we haven't heard anything, so this is their last opportunity.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move that we approve.
Second. Do we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Okay. The next item is a public hearing to approve or deny the following family partitions. A, Kent Hydell property lot 8D1 and lots 9D1 and 9D2, McLennan Associates.
Ellen Jackson with McLennan Associates, representing the Adel property, asking for your approval.
Staff,
All comments were addressed. We recommend approval.
do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Okay, this next item is a public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats. New River Oaks subdivision, Benchmark Group LLC. Okay, I'm sorry. I failed to open a public hearing to discuss that family partition. Are there anyone out there who wants to make a public comment about the Kent Hydell property? All right, thank you. We'll close the public hearing. All right, the next one is a public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats. New River Oaks subdivision, Benchmark.
Good evening. My name is Russell Rome. I'm with Benchmark Group, 11854 Penningwood Avenue, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What we're proposing is a 35 single-family residential lots on a piece of property that's 12.35 acres. The property is located on Cornerview Road, south side of Cornerview Road, about a half a mile east of Highway 73. The current zoning is medium-intensity residential, which we are complying with. We have a mix of lots varying between 60-foot wide and 70-foot wide. This is going to be a 50-foot public right-of-way with a 27-foot typical residential street. We'll have a private treatment plant that discharges to New River, which is adjacent to the property to the south. We're meeting all the requirements for the parks. Traffic study has been prepared, submitted, and approved. Drainage impact study has been prepared, submitted, and approved. And we ask for your favorable motion, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, before I open the public hearing for the comments from the audience, would staff like to comment on this item?
I mean, we've gone back and forth several times over the past month or so and had minor comments throughout that they've addressed and taken care of, to shift some things around to get the right park space and everything like that. And everything's good as far as the plat goes. And since this was sent out, the traffic study and drainage study have both been approved by Tim, so we recommend approval.
think. Has anyone signed to speak on, signed up to speak on this item? In that case, discussion,
Well, I had a question of staff. This meets the new subdivision requirements that we passed
Yes, sir.
earlier this year?
Yes.
Okay, good.
What were the comments that have to be satisfactorily addressed in the drainage and traffic studies? What does that refer to?
All have been addressed. They were
All
just,
have been
we went
addressed.
back and forth on a couple of items, and they've all been addressed
Okay,
satisfactorily
thank
now.
any other comments here? Do I have a motion?
Have to open and close, though.
Oh, well, I did. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do I? Can I, Mr. Callender moves to approve.
Second.
Who was it?
Second.
Mr. Burgess seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. The next item has been pulled, item 11. And both that's, so, staff report?
I had emailed the commissioners a couple of files, I guess about 3 weeks ago now, it seems forever ago, but to discuss an item that I'd like to have a public hearing on next month. And the gist of the changes would result in all future subdivisions being private. If you've been paying any attention to what's been going on here locally, we've been talking about how our transportation network is severely underfunded, and we don't know how much longer we're going to be able to afford to upgrade and maintain the roads we have. And at the current clip, I had some math here, we are adding a substantial amount of roadways just in the approved subdivisions. So they've been preliminary approved, they haven't been constructed or they're under construction, they haven't been finalized, roads that haven't been accepted into the maintenance system, but they have been approved. We have another 20.3 miles of road to add to the parish maintenance system. So the question is, can we continue? We've just accepted another subdivision. We're going to hear one at the planning and zoning meeting. I can guarantee you in the next 2 months, we're going to see another 2 or 3 preliminary plats. Can we continue to accept subdivision roads into the maintenance system and not spend those dollars on roads that actually carry a burden of traffic? So the revisions that we're talking about are revisions not only to the subdivision code, but to our overall code of ordinances, because there's a lot of little sections that have language in them about accepting roads into the parish maintenance system. And what I'd like to do is just have a public hearing next month that we can talk about this, accept comments from developers and from citizens and anyone who wants to participate, but just talk about the pros and cons of this idea, because that's all it is right now, is an idea of amending the code so that all future subdivisions are private. They're all under the maintenance burden of the HOA and the people that buy houses in those subdivisions, and the parish no longer will carry that maintenance responsibility. So I'd like to request a public hearing next month. I'll send you a revised ordinance that shows all the changes that we'd have to do, and then we can have a public hearing and, extend that for a month or two, as long as we're getting comments and want to keep talking about it, or we can send it on to the Council of Strategic Planning or Transportation or whoever we want to send it to and say, here's our idea for one way we can possibly start saving some of those transportation dollars.
Ricky, we also have a newly formed impact fee exploratory committee that will look at the potential for new development impact fees for transportation, potentially for other uses also. I think we're going to have to look at that in conjunction with the work of that impact fee committee.
Right. I guess the difference would be that if I'm a new subdivision and we're going to instill an impact fee, that impact fee is going to go to correct off-site problems that are created because of this subdivision or that are exacerbated because of the subdivision. We're simply saying that those roads within that subdivision aren't our responsibility anymore. We can't afford to maintain them. You guys have to be responsible for them. And so it really is two different things. Impact fees are for off-site, not on-site improvements.
Well, I think a public hearing is a good idea. I know that in my subdivision, if our HOA had to support taking care of the roads in the subdivisions, it would be quite a burden financially for us. And that's what I think anybody who lives in a new subdivision is going to have to look forward to. Our HOA fees right now are reasonable, but if they had to include maintenance of the streets, it would be substantially higher. And I guess that'll be part of the input we'll get from people when we do the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
And Ricky, could you, when we do have, if we do have this public hearing, bring data like how much per mile, per road, per year would that impact the people in a subdivision? For example, 100 homes, X number of miles, how much per year would it cost them to maintain the roads?
We can do that, and you know, our engineer, Jason Taylor, has put together a whole spreadsheet as to what level do you want to maintain them. You want to maintain them at perfect condition, you want to maintain them at reasonable condition, and there's a different price per linear foot of those roads, and we'll be happy to provide all that information.
Good.
Ricky, I don't mean to speak ahead, Robert, but I've also heard talks of creating individual taxing districts for each neighborhood that gets developed. I mean, I'm pretty cloudy on how that's going to work. I mean,
So
kind of.
I believe that Senate bill has been killed, so that's no
really?
longer something that is a legislative thing. But today, if, say, a community is already built, it's already constructed, already has people living in it, those people can come and create a district in their neighborhood that says, we as a neighborhood agree to pay this on our property tax bill. It will go into an account and be the maintenance fund for our roads. They can do that today, but now you're talking about 100 voters or 200 voters in a neighborhood, as opposed to what the bill was going to do was say the developer is the one voter. He's going to put that millage on those lots, and they basically now bear that burden before they bought the house. Now, after the fact, will you get those 100 or 200 people, you know, to vote for it? That becomes the question. If the roads get bad enough, perhaps they will.
So you think that the HOA fees would solely be responsible for maintaining the roads? Is
They
how
would,
it looks
they
now?
would have to be, because
That's it.
we're not going to be maintaining them anymore.
No additional taxing aside or anything?
We can't pass a tax. I mean, it's proving to be impossible.
Lost the last 2 times.
I know.
Rather than have a public hearing where we have to decide something, could we take another meeting to be educated as a group, where we could talk back and forth in public? And then, once we're educated and we know what we're talking about, then invite the developers and all, as opposed to being taught while they're
Sure,
adding
we could
comments.
just keep it as a staff report item and not a public hearing item next month. I'll prepare the ordinance as it would reflect the revisions in the codes. We can have a discussion as to what that means. We can have the dollar and cents discussion about what those prices per 100 homes for each level of standard, and we can do that and then push the public hearing to the following month, or we could table it indefinitely. It's up to you guys.
That's what I would ask, is that we have.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
a good concept.
All right, so I think we're kind of agreed that it would just be a staff item report at the next meeting for discussion, and then maybe a public hearing in the meeting after that.
Not a problem.
So is there any other staff report? Is there an engineering staff report?
I'd just like to go along with some of the projects that we have going on. These are the private developments. There are 6 projects that are under bond. They've finished the infrastructure. They put it under a certain amount, a year or 2-year bond, and that'll bring in 393 lots. There are 6 subdivisions which are under, or 8 subdivisions which are under construction now. That is 356 lots. There are another 3 subdivisions which have been approved, but they're waiting to actually start the construction, and that's 183 lots. There are 2 projects that are under review for they've actually turned in the construction plans, so we're reviewing those for those, and that's 139 lots. And there are also 4 projects that have just come in. They're in the preliminary stages of being designed at this time, and we're waiting for construction plans to come in, and that's another 518 lots. So that's a total of 1,589 lots. And then for commercial sites, there are 13 that are in the review stage, and there are 52 that have been approved. Now, we don't track how far along they are on that. They could start construction at any time. And that's what's going on.
Thank you. So that's the end of our planning agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a, Mr. Calendar, Mrs. Sanji, first, moved and second, adjourned.